Imagine waking up one day to a world where happiness is no longer an abstract idea, but a quantifiable, marketable product. Something you can buy, measure, and optimize. It's all around you, from the morning news feeds to the late-night advertisements, from the wellness apps to the countless self-help books. Happiness has become a commodity, marketed as the ultimate goal. But as you scroll through your phone or flip through a magazine, something feels off. You have it all, the perfect job, the ideal relationship, the picture-perfect life, but somehow you feel empty. What if everything you thought you knew about happiness is wrong? What if the very things that promise to bring you happiness are quietly driving you deeper into discontent? Consider this. In a world that increasingly prioritizes personal fulfillment and individual success, why are we more anxious, stressed, and depressed than ever before? According to studies, depression rates have been climbing steadily, especially in societies where material wealth and individual achievement are at their peak. With all the tools, technologies, and philosophies available to us, why do we still feel this gnawing sense of dissatisfaction? What is happiness, really? Is it a fleeting emotion, an elusive state of being, or something more profound? And if it's not found in the things we are told it should be, success, wealth, love, recognition, then where does it truly lie? These questions are not just idle musings. They strike at the very core of our existence. We've been taught to chase happiness as if it's the final destination, the one thing we need to attain to have it all. But what if the pursuit itself is the problem? Are we trapped in a cycle, perpetually running after a future that never quite arrives? Is the happiness we seek so desperately a construct of our own minds, a phantom that vanishes the moment we think we've grasped it? These questions, unsettling and profound, deserve more than a passing thought. They demand a deep dive into the very foundation of what it means to be happy. But more importantly, they call for a reassessment of the path we're all on, one that seems to promise joy, but might instead be leading us into a profound existential trap. So, what is it that we're truly missing? And how can we break free from this cycle? The answer, as you'll soon see, lies not in the things we're told to desire, but in the unseen, often uncomfortable truths about the human condition itself. Are you ready to confront those truths? The truth about modern happiness lies not in what we have, but in what we don't have. The deep, almost invisible fissures in our understanding of ourselves. Happiness, as we know it today, has been shaped by a powerful combination of social conditioning, psychological expectations, and philosophical missteps that have been handed down through generations. We are conditioned to think of happiness as something we can achieve, something external, something we can possess, a feeling we can experience if we follow the right steps, buy the right products, or make the right choices. Yet, there's something inherently troubling about this pursuit. Think about it. Why are we told that happiness is an end goal? That it's something that should be achieved, perfected, and experienced in bursts? Is happiness, as we've come to understand it, even achievable in the way we are led to believe? Or are we simply chasing shadows in a hall of mirrors, forever caught in an illusion that we confuse with reality? At the core of this is a psychological conflict, one that has been present for centuries, yet has never been fully addressed. Carl Jung spoke of the concept of the shadow, the unconscious parts of ourselves that we try to hide, ignore, or suppress. The shadow contains all the things we deem undesirable, uncomfortable, or even unacceptable about ourselves. It includes our darkest fears, repressed emotions, and the feelings of inadequacy we're terrified to confront. But in today's world, this shadow is often ignored in favor of an idealized, perfect version of self. The pressure to constantly present our best selves, to be happy, to appear as though everything is under control. This pressure is suffocating, and it distorts our understanding of who we really are. In this sense, modern happiness is a construct, a facade built upon the idea that happiness is a state of permanent achievement, something that can be measured, quantified, and displayed. This belief has roots in the philosophy of existential thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Friedrich Nietzsche, who warn of the dangers of chasing external validation and equating happiness with achievement or fulfillment. Sartre argued that human beings are condemned to freedom, a burden that comes with the responsibility of defining ourselves in a world devoid of inherent meaning. In a society where happiness is treated as a goal, we are caught in the paradox of being free to choose, yet also shackled by an ever-growing list of shoulds and musts. Nietzsche, on the other hand, Warren of the Last Man, the individual who is so focused on comfort, safety, and contentment that they cease to challenge themselves, ceasing to grow. In the pursuit of happiness, we risk becoming the very thing that Nietzsche cautioned against. Individuals who are satisfied only with ease, pleasure, and trivial comforts, losing sight of higher ideals and deeper purpose. The pressure to feel happy, then, is not just psychological, it's societal. We live in a culture where happiness has been commodified, where it's reduced to a set of metrics that can be measured with happiness apps or through the consumption of lifestyle brands that promise fulfillment. But the darker side of this is that we've lost connection to what happiness actually is. We mistake it for pleasure, fleeting satisfaction, or a temporary state of feeling good, ignoring the deeper, more complex layers of what it means to be content or fulfilled. But here lies a hidden problem. In our quest for happiness, we have not only been pursuing the wrong thing, but we have also been completely neglecting the deeper, more profound aspect of our existence. The question is not how to attain happiness, but rather what is the nature of happiness itself? When we treat happiness as an external goal, something that we acquire, possess, or win, it becomes something we constantly have to chase. We are left feeling hollow because our pursuit of happiness is fundamentally disconnected from our authentic selves. This brings us to the paradox of the heart of modern happiness. The more we try to find it through external means, the further we push it away. The paradox, as the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer argued, is that human desire is inherently insatiable. We're locked in a cycle of striving, wanting, and achieving, but this constant pursuit only deepens the emptiness we feel. We've been told that if we have enough, we will be happy. If we climb to the top of the social ladder, if we find the perfect career or relationship, if we have children or own property or travel to exotic places. But it's always the next thing, the next big achievement, that we believe will fill the void. The truth is that happiness, as we've been conditioned to understand it, is not something to be attained at all. Instead, it is something that is discovered within. It lies not in the external world, but in a deep, existential connection with our true selves. The modern obsession with happiness has blindfolded us to this profound truth, leaving us with only a shallow, fleeting version of it. And yet, this hidden problem has consequences far beyond our personal dissatisfaction. It's shaping the very fabric of society, influencing how we interact with each other, how we raise our children, how we define success, and ultimately, how we live. We are caught in a cultural loop, driven by false promises and shallow ideals. But the deeper question remains, can we ever break free from this cycle, or have we already given up our capacity for true happiness in favor of chasing illusions? You might think that this obsession with happiness is just an individual issue, something that affects only the person caught in the constant chase. But the truth is far more insidious. The consequences of this collective misunderstanding of happiness are far-reaching and subtle, infiltrating every aspect of our society and affecting our relationships, our work, and even our self-perception. Imagine, for a moment, the millions of people who wake up each morning with a sense of dread, not because of any immediate threat, but because they feel disconnected from a deeper sense of purpose. They live in a world of overwhelming choice, yet are paralyzed by it. They have endless options available, from career paths to lifestyle choices, but they feel nothing but exhaustion, the pressure to maintain a certain image of happiness, to perform in ways that match societal expectations is crushing. We've been taught to equate success with happiness, but what happens when success feels hollow? This feeling of emptiness is not unique to any one individual. It's become a silent epidemic. According to recent studies, the rates of burnout, depression, and anxiety are soaring, especially in high-income societies. What's deeply troubling is that, despite living in one of the most prosperous times in human history, people feel increasingly unfulfilled. The very things that are supposed to bring happiness, material wealth, career success, status, and relationships are failing to deliver lasting contentment. The psychological implications are staggering. This pursuit of happiness often leads to what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. As you achieve one goal, the happiness derived from it fades, and you find yourself constantly moving towards the next thing, the next acquisition, the next promotion, the next milestone. But each victory, no matter how grand, ultimately fails to bring the lasting sense of fulfillment you expected. It's a cycle that traps people in a state of perpetual wanting, never allowing them to truly appreciate what they have. The result is a sense of existential dissatisfaction. What Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and existential psychologist, referred to as existential vacuum. It's a feeling of being disconnected from meaning and purpose, a void that can never be filled by external success or achievement alone. The consequences extend beyond the individual and into the very structure of our society. In a world where happiness is equated with consumption and constant growth, we find ourselves trapped in a system that demands more, faster, and better at all costs. This pursuit of happiness as an external goal has shaped the way we view others, often as mere stepping stones or obstacles on our path to personal success. The social fabric frays as individuals and groups become more isolated, less connected, and more competitive. The true nature of human connection, empathy, shared experience, and meaningful relationships gets lost in the rush to succeed and be happy. Even in our most intimate relationships, this pursuit takes its toll. We approach love and friendship as transactions. If I give you this, you'll give me that. We invest in others not because we want to share our lives with them, but because we expect something in return, validation, admiration, or support for our happiness. But this transactional view of relationships undermines their deeper potential. Genuine connection, real love, and true friendship are built on a foundation of vulnerability and mutual care, not the pursuit of individual happiness. Furthermore, the social pressure to be happy creates a distorted sense of reality. Social media exacerbates this issue, showcasing curated, idealized versions of people's lives, perfect vacations, perfect families, perfect bodies. The constant barrage of happiness on our screens creates a false standard by which we measure our own lives. This leads to a dangerous form of comparison, where we feel inadequate because we aren't living up to the image of happiness presented to us by others. This cycle of comparison fosters a sense of alienation, reinforcing the belief that we are missing something essential in our lives. Neurologically, the pursuit of happiness also has profound implications. Our brains are wired for short-term rewards, making it easy to get caught in a cycle of instant gratification. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward, is constantly triggered by the chase, whether it's through the acquisition of a new product, a promotion at work, or even likes on a social media post. But the problem with dopamine-driven behavior is that it creates a feedback loop of fleeting satisfaction. The momentary rush of happiness fades, and we find ourselves reaching for the next hit. In this way, we are constantly seeking something outside of ourselves to fill an internal void, but the void never seems to go away. The more we try to fill it, the larger it grows, until we're trapped in an endless cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. Culturally, this is reflected in the growing emphasis on individualism. While individual success is important, the focus on personal achievement above all else leaves little room for collective well-being. Society has become increasingly fragmented, with people more isolated, more focused on themselves and their own pursuits, and less willing to invest in shared, communal experiences. The pressure to succeed and to be happy on your own terms fosters competition rather than collaboration, making it harder for individuals to connect with one another in meaningful ways. The very fabric of social trust and cooperation begins to disintegrate. Perhaps the most insidious consequence, however, is that we are gradually losing sight of the value of suffering. In our culture of happiness, suffering is seen as something to be avoided at all costs. Yet, as many philosophers and psychologists have pointed out, suffering is not only inevitable, it is also necessary for growth and meaning. Viktor Frankl, who found or found meaning in his suffering during the Holocaust, argued that human beings cannot find true happiness without first confronting the realities of suffering and mortality. Happiness cannot exist in a vacuum. It is often the contrast of pain, struggle, and loss that makes it meaningful. By ignoring the darker, more difficult aspects of the human experience, we distort our understanding of happiness, turning it into something shallow and fleeting. We fail to acknowledge that true happiness often arises from the acceptance of life's inevitable struggles, the courage to face fear, loss, and uncertainty. So, here we are, caught in a cycle, where the pursuit of happiness seems more like an endless treadmill than a meaningful journey. But what if there's another way? What if the very foundation of pursuit is flawed, and we could break free from this cycle once and for all? The idea of breaking free from a lifetime of cultural conditioning may sound radical, but the truth is that it's not only possible, it's absolutely necessary for a more authentic, meaningful existence. The first step in breaking free is recognizing that happiness is not an external product to be attained, nor a goal to be achieved. Instead, it is a state of being that emerges from within, independent of the things you have or the things you do. This insight is not new. Many philosophers, spiritual traditions, and thinkers have emphasized this for centuries. It's just that, in the modern world, we've forgotten to listen. Take, for example, the Stoics, a group of philosophers who lived over 2,000 years ago, yet whose teachings are more relevant now than ever. Stoicism teaches us that happiness is not something that comes from outside circumstances, but from how we respond to those circumstances. Epictetus, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This radical shift in perspective invites us to stop seeing ourselves as passive recipients of happiness and instead empowers us to take control of our emotional lives, regardless of external conditions. This perspective might seem counterintuitive in a world where we are constantly encouraged to chase after external markers of success and pleasure. But the Stoics knew something fundamental. The only thing we truly have control over is our internal state. External events, good or bad, are beyond our control. What matters is how we choose to interpret and respond to those events. This is the first step in a rebellion. The realization that your happiness doesn't depend on external validation or material acquisition. It's rooted in your mindset, your attitude, and your capacity for acceptance. To break free, we must first shed the illusion that happiness is a destination. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, open plain, with the horizon stretching endlessly before you. You've been taught that happiness is just over the next hill, that if you walk a little farther, achieve a little more, you'll finally reach it. But what if the horizon itself is an illusion? What if the path itself, the journey, is where true happiness lies? This isn't a call to abandon ambition or achievement. Far from it. The rebellion against the conventional notion of happiness does not mean rejecting pursuit of goals or personal growth. It means embracing a different kind of success, one that doesn't hinge on external validation or comparison to others. It means pursuing what truly matters to you, regardless of how society defines success. The rebellion is about cultivating an internal sense of peace, fulfillment, and contentment that is independent of external circumstances. Take, for example, the concept of meaning in life. Viktor Frankl, in his seminal work Man's Search for Meaning, argued that true happiness is not found in pleasure or comfort, but in finding meaning in life, especially during times of suffering. Frankl, a survivor of Auschwitz, witnessed the darkest depth of human suffering, yet he found profound meaning even in the most unimaginable circumstances. His message was simple. When life presents its harshest trials, our ability to find meaning in our experiences is what sustains us. This is a crucial insight. Happiness, in its deepest form, comes from our ability to give meaning to our lives, regardless of the external circumstances we face. This means embracing discomfort, uncertainty, and even suffering, for they are part of the human experience. By accepting that happiness is not a static destination, but an ongoing process that arises from how we engage with life, we reclaim our agency. We become the architect of our own emotional lives, choosing to define our own values, purposes, and sources of joy, regardless of how society might define them. The second step in this rebellion is the cultivation of mindfulness and self-awareness. This may sound overly simplistic in a world obsessed with speed and efficiency, but it is, in fact, one of the most radical acts of defiance against the dominant narrative. Mindfulness is a practice of being fully present in the moment without judgment. It's about observing your thoughts and emotions without getting lost in them. This practice helps you become aware of the automatic mental patterns and societal pressures that shape your behavior and beliefs. It's only by stepping outside of these automatic responses that we can break free from the cultural conditioning that equates happiness with achievement, consumption, or external validation. Through mindfulness, we begin to realize that much of the distress we experience comes not from external circumstances, but from our internal reactions to those circumstances. The rebellion, then, is not about changing the external world. It's about changing how we relate to it. It's about freeing ourselves from a tyranny of constant striving, the pressure to perform, the need to always be happy. Finally, to break free, we must learn to embrace imperfection. Modern happiness often demands perfection, perfect bodies, perfect careers, perfect relationships, but this demand is both unrealistic and damaging. Embracing imperfection is an act of profound liberation. It's the willingness to be vulnerable, to acknowledge our flaws, and to accept ourselves just as we are. It's about recognizing that our worth is not determined by our achievements, but by the fact that we are inherently worthy as human beings. By rejecting the false notion of a perfect life and embracing our imperfections, we take back control of our happiness. We stop measuring ourselves against impossible standards and begin to live authentically, with all of our flaws, struggles, and humanity. The rebellion is, at its core, a return to ourselves, to who we truly are, beyond the masks we wear and the labels we adopt. Now, after all of this, the examination of what happiness is, the deep psychological and philosophical roots that shape our quest for it, the consequences of that pursuit, and the rebellion that offers us a path out, you may be wondering, what's the final truth? What's the revelation that brings everything into focus? The one thing that turns all of our previous struggles, doubts, and questions into clarity? The truth is deceptively simple, but it has the power to completely shift your entire understanding of life, happiness, and yourself. Are you ready? The ultimate realization is that happiness, true, profound, and lasting happiness, cannot be found in the pursuit of happiness itself. It is the byproduct of a life lived with meaning, purpose, and authenticity, not the goal. This is a paradox that has eluded us for so long. In seeking happiness, we often push it further away. The more we focus on achieving it, the less we experience it. But when we stop chasing it, when we let go of the need to be happy and instead focus on living a life true to our values, happiness arises naturally and unexpectedly. You may have heard the phrase, happiness is a journey, not a destination. It's a cliche, yes, but it's also profoundly true. The problem is, in our modern world, we've taken that journey and turned it into a race to acquire more, to be more, to achieve more. But the real journey lies in accepting life as it is, embracing the messiness, the pain, and the beauty of the human experience. When we stop trying to arrive at happiness, when we stop defining ourselves by external markers of success, we can finally experience the fullness of life as it is, unfiltered, unmeasured, and imperfect. The irony, then, is that happiness becomes possible only when we stop obsessing over it. It's in the act of surrendering to the present moment, in letting go of the pressure to achieve it, that we truly experience it. This is where the final, most profound insight lies. Happiness is not something we can control or force into existence. It is a natural consequence of a life lived authentically and intentionally. In a world that constantly bombards us with messages about what we should want, what we should be doing, how we should be feeling, the most radical act is to simply be yourself, to embrace who you are, flaws and all, without the need to meet society's arbitrary standards. This is not about rejecting ambition or refusing to strive for things you care about. It's about recognizing that your worth is not tied to those achievements. True happiness comes from aligning your life with what is meaningful to you, regardless of external expectations. This realization does not mean that life becomes free of challenges, suffering, or hardship. Quite the opposite. In fact, it's often through our struggles that we find the deepest sense of meaning and fulfillment. As we discussed earlier, Viktor Frankl found meaning in the most horrific circumstances, and so can we. The key is that suffering, challenge, and discomfort are part of the human experience. Embracing them as inevitable rather than something to avoid opens the door to a much more profound happiness. In the end, happiness does not reside in the things you acquire or the accolades you collect. It is not in the perfect relationship, the perfect career, or the perfect image of yourself. It is found in the simplicity of being, in the acceptance of life's imperfections, and in the understanding that you are enough just as you are. This is the paradox we must learn to live with. The more we let go of the desire to control our happiness, the more we experience it. The more we surrender to life as it is, the more we find peace, joy, and fulfillment. Happiness is a natural consequence of a life lived with purpose, authenticity, and love. It is not a goal to be reached, but a state of being that arises when we stop looking for it outside ourselves and begin to cultivate it from within. Imagine, for a moment, living in a world where the pressure to be happy no longer exists. A world where you are free to live your life, pursue your passions, and embrace your challenges without the constant weight of societal expectation pressing down on you. In such a world, happiness is not a fleeting moment or a destination. It is simply a way of being, a way of embracing life, with all of its beauty and pain as it comes. This, then, is the final truth, the realization that everything you've been searching for has been with you all along. Happiness is not something you find. It's something you cultivate through the simple act of living authentically, embracing imperfection, and finding meaning in every moment. As you step away from the relentless pursuit of happiness, as you break free from the chains of external validation and comparison, you'll discover a freedom far greater than anything you ever imagined. It's the freedom to be yourself, fully and without apology. And in that freedom, you will find the true happiness that has eluded you for so long. So what will you do now? Will you continue the chase, or will you allow yourself to rest in the fullness of the present moment, accepting life as it is? The choice, ultimately, is yours.